behalf of the Rich family and our long history as a small business, we want to thank the Rocky Mountain Jewish Historical Society for helping preserve Jewish history of the community.
On behalf of the Luby family, Joanne and I are very honored to receive the Rocky Mountain Historical Society's Heritage Award, honoring the automobile industry in Colorado. And it's a pleasure to be able to do this for you.
Colorado was still an untamed wilderness when the discovery of gold near Pikes Peak in 1858 brought the area to the nation's attention. By the spring of 1859, fortune seekers began to arrive in droves. They used the rival infant camps of Denver and Auraria as jumping-off points. Jews also took part in the quest. During the big excitement as the year of the gold discovery was known, at least 12 Jews of German descent migrated to Colorado to join in the hunt for freedom, new opportunities, and wealth. Jews who migrated to the American West in the late 19th and early 20th centuries encountered unprecedented opportunity and acceptance as pioneer community builders who helped construct basic institutions. And from the beginning, Colorado Jews played a central role in the state's philanthropic, political, cultural, religious, and economic development.
Come away with me, Lucille, in my merry Oldsmobile. Down the road of life we'll fly, automobiling you and I. To the church we'll quickly steal, then our wedding bells will peal. You can go as far as you like with me in my merry Oldsmobile.
When Jews and other Colorado pioneers arrived in the region in the mid-19th century, most arrived on foot or horseback, or by wagon train, prairie schooner, or stagecoach. Beginning with the arrival of the Denver Pacific and Kansas Pacific Rail lines in 1870, an increasing number of new residents and visitors to Denver and the Colorado Territory came by train, and railroads played a central role in transforming Denver from a frontier outpost to a burgeoning urban center. None of those early pioneers could have envisioned that by the second decade of the 20th century, automobiles would change the face of the nation and the state of Colorado. Although cars were considered a luxury item, in 1908, Henry Ford pioneered the Model T, an affordably priced car designed to attract the common middle-class family. Arguably, no other invention had more impact on everyday life in the United States than the automobile. And Colorado Jews were prominent among those who became leaders in the local automotive business, as highly visible car dealers, part suppliers, and recyclers. Supplying car parts provided an entryway for literally dozens of Colorado Jews into successful businesses. The son of Russian immigrant Jewish parents, Jacob Abraham Haon was born in Denver in 1895. After high school, Jake married Clara Cohen, and the couple became the parents of 3 children, Pearl, Maurice, and Joe. Before Jacob reached the age of 20, he and a partner started the Auto Wrecking and Metal Company at its first location on Broadway, known as Jake's Place. Jake later moved the store to a second location on Broadway, and then in 1928, Jake erected an impressive building on Spear Boulevard. Jake lost that building in the Great Depression when he was unable to make the mortgage payments. But in the late 1930s, he began again with his son Maurice in another store on Broadway before moving to 1401 Colfax at the end of the Colfax Viaduct. Although Jake began his business as a wrecking company, he expanded to selling new, used, and rebuilt auto parts. By the end of the 1940s, the company was selling mostly new parts. In 1947, Jake and Maurice built a new store at 775 Champa. During the 1950s, the product line expanded to custom items and hot rod equipment. In 1953, the store added a successful muffler shop. From 1959 to 1961, 3 branch stores were opened. In the following years, Maurice's sons, Donald, Sheldon, and Gary, joined the business along with their mother, Edith Haon. Advertising weekly on the comic page of the Denver Post and the Rocky Mountain News was unique and a key to their success. This popular advertising was used from 1954 to 1981 with great notoriety. Then in 1974, because of urban renewal, Jake had to again relocate. But after much searching, Maurice and Sheldon agreed to buy the 1380 Spear Boulevard building and added a 3,000 square foot showroom. The business remained in the family for 3 generations, from 1914 to 1981, until it was sold to an out-of-state investor, and Maurice retired. His son Sheldon went on to become a successful real estate broker. Family-run business has long played a special role among Jewish immigrants and their children. In the second decade of the 20th century, Jewish immigrant Chopsy Reich, or Charles Rich, as he was known in America, also helped pioneer the used automotive cars, trucks, and parts business. He and his wife Rebecca became the parents of 10 children. Like so many Jewish immigrants, Charles began as a peddler and eventually started a business of buying and salvaging used automobiles called C. Rich Auto Parts. Charles' sons Milton, Albert, Leonard, and Ken later followed with similar companies. Milton Rich and Charles' son-in-law Martin Goldstein operated Kahn's Auto from 1946 till 1986 at 4200 Morrison Road. Albert Rich owned Colorado Truck Sales at 5293 Vasquez Boulevard from 1968 till 1985. And Leonard ran AZ Auto at 2815 West 8th Avenue from 1956 to 1994. In 1986, the youngest Rich son, Ken, started Denver Truck Sales, and today Ken remains at the helm of that enterprise.
In 1986, I started Denver Truck Sales, and we manufacture specialty heavy trucks. And we send the trucks, we cover 30 western states and also 5 foreign countries. We build specialty trucks for the counties, municipalities, for the food industry, for the construction industry, the farm industry, and just general businesses. We're known in the oil field business, construction business, putting out a fine product. And what we sell are reconditioned used trucks. And then we provide them at a very low cost, competitive price for the customer, especially the beginning businessman, the medium-sized companies, and also the large oil field companies.
The extended Rich family has been involved in different aspects of the automotive business in Denver for nearly a century.
A Jewish culture has taught over the years that the Jewish practices of Jewish law, especially of the Talmud, teaches that you want to be honest, your name is worth more than money, and that provides a comfort zone for the customer to do business with you.
Ken Rich and his wife Beverly are also involved in a number of philanthropic organizations, most notably the local chapter of the National Council of Jewish Women, where Beverly serves as president.
I'm very honored to be the president of the National Council of Jewish Women, Colorado section. And this is my 4th year that I have been their president.
The Denver NCJW was founded in Colorado in the 1890s. After serving in the American Army during World War I, Morris Silver was another Russian Jewish immigrant who started a business related to automobiles in the 1920s. With a $500 loan from Central Bank and Trust, secured on a handshake, Morris opened Silver Auto and Radio Supply on 14th and Champa, and later relocated to 25th and Lawrence Street. He and his wife Frances, whom he met at a picnic sponsored by the BMH Synagogue, became the parents of 4 children. Later, Frances often helped out in the store, and their children, Joe, Donald, Marie, and Beverly, also worked in the business. Morris also helped his brothers Sam, Ben, and Jack to establish the Silver Tire Company. Jack later branched out to open Jack Silver's Radio Repair Company. Morris retired in the 1960s, and his son Joe ran the business for another decade until the family sold the company in the 1970s. The Silvers were longtime generous supporters of many of Denver's Jewish educational institutions, and today, Joe Silver credits his parents' lifelong example of generosity for his establishment of a charitable foundation which he started in the 1940s. Other Colorado Jews entered the auto business as specialized manufacturers. In 1923, with Henry Winter as president and Adolph Weiss as secretary, the two men started a modest truck body manufacturing business. Before long, it became a leading regional and national company, filling custom orders, including those for ambulances, which were often constructed from cutting a passenger car in two and then adding a section. The Winter-Weiss company was known for building motor-driven delivery vans, like those they manufactured for Coors and the Denver Rainbow Bread Company, and for providing reliable vehicles for the burgeoning interstate moving and storage industry. In the 1930s, Winter-Weiss built the first bookmobile for the Denver Public Library and the first gas engine trains to climb Pikes Peak. Beginning in the 1940s, Winter-Weiss also provided drilling equipment for the oil industry. And during World War II, the company built service trucks for the U.S. Army. Maurice B. Glassman, known as Bud, was the son of another early Jewish immigrant family, who later became prominent as a manufacturer in another facet of the auto business. His father, Louis, emigrated from Romania to New York and later moved to Denver, where he met and married a fellow Romanian immigrant, Jenny Schatz, in the early 1900s. The couple settled in Denver's West Side, where they raised their 7 children. Louis made a modest living as a junk dealer, a popular business for Jewish immigrants because only a small investment was required to begin. Life was hard for the family, particularly after Louis died in 1919 during the infamous flu epidemic, and Jenny then ran a grocery store to support the family. Their youngest son, Bud, had very strong family ties and was determined to assist his family and achieve business success. With the phenomenal growth in auto ownership after World War II came the increased need for replacement of windshields. Service Auto Glass was founded in 1947 in Wichita, Kansas, by the aptly named Bud Glassman and his partner Art Lankin. In 1951, the company expanded its scope and began manufacturing flat glass for windshields and glass blocks for building applications. With its growth, the company took on a new name, which remains to this day, the Safelite Glass Corporation. And Bud and his partners soon earned the nickname of the Wizards of Glass. Bud sold out his share of the company in the late 1970s. He and his wife, Shana, established the Glassman Foundation, which supported dozens of Jewish institutions in Colorado, particularly Jewish education and assistance to the elderly. Today, in its contemporary form, Safelite has become the dominant American manufacturer and distributor of auto replacement glass. After World War II, near universal car ownership became part of the American dream, and American manufactured cars were king. By the 1950s, Colorado Jews who were involved in some aspect of the auto business were so pervasive that the Allied Jewish Federation initiated an automotive division for philanthropic development, which included Jewish Denverites Phil Blacker, Harry and Jake Cohen, Jake Haon, who served as chairman, Jack Ladmar, Sanford Hertz, and Milt Sherman. In 1945, Hyman Wright founded Stadium Auto Parts in a small garage located at 1742 Federal Boulevard. Hyman and Frida Eisen met and married in Denver in 1933. Hyman's parents emigrated from Russia, and Hyman was raised in Brooklyn. Frida emigrated with her entire family from Hungary in the early 1900s, locating in Denver's West Side Jewish community. The Wrights became the parents of 4 children, Lorraine, Anita, Arnie, and Norman. And the family lived on the west side for over 30 years until they moved to the Hilltop area in 1964. Hyman had graduated from New York City College with an education degree, but he was unable to get a teaching position because of a handicap of hearing loss. So he drove taxi cabs for several years. During the Depression, he and his brother decided to travel to the Midwest, finding work harvesting the fields. Eventually, they reached Denver in the early 1930s and established a garage on East Colfax. At the age of 39, he was drafted and served in the Army for a short stint. Hyman then returned to Denver and worked at the railroad's mechanical shop. There he observed that the wrecking yards in Denver were always busy, so he joined Smith Brothers Auto Wrecking to learn the business. In 1945, he purchased a small garage wrecking yard on the corner of 18th and Federal and began his career in the industry. Originally, it was just a service station garage. In 1955, he built his first new building and began to focus on selling parts from salvage vehicles. Hyman's son, Norman Wright, worked throughout his childhood with his father. In early 1971, his father had rented out the property and was closing down the business. But after the tenant defaulted, Norman purchased what little was remaining. So he began his auto career on May 3, 1971, with 2 vehicles in the yard, empty shelves, and a broken-down 1946 Ford boom truck, and has remained at the helm of the company for 46 years. Today, Stadium Auto Parts is driven by a sustainability model and is now one of the top auto recycling facilities in the United States. The company has received many industry awards, including the Colorado Environmental Award, and currently has 2 locations employing nearly 30 employees in Denver. Stadium is completely computerized, dismantling over 1,600 late-model salvage vehicles a year. Norman graduated from the University of Colorado with an accounting degree. He is active in many auto recycling organizations. He is a past president of both the Colorado Auto Recyclers Association and the Automotive Recyclers Association, and currently serves as chairman of its Government Affairs and State Regulations Committees. He also serves on the National Board of Preferred Recyclers Program, which is made up of the top 130 independent recyclers in the U.S. Norman has also been extremely active in many Colorado philanthropic organizations, including the Masons and the Girl Scouts, with his wife Leslie. Over time, many Denver Jews also went on to acquire car dealerships. One of the most prominent was Joe Luby, whose Luby Chevrolet outlet on South Wadsworth became a Denver landmark. The company moved to Wadsworth Boulevard from its downtown Denver locations in 1972. Eastern European immigrant Joseph Lubetsky, the family name was changed to Luby in the 1930s, served as a Rebbe or teacher of Jewish studies to young boys in Denver. The family, which included 5 sons and 1 daughter, first lived under the Colfax Viaduct in the West Side Jewish immigrant neighborhood. The first iteration of Luby Chevrolet was founded in 1920 by Joseph's son, Sam. In that year, Sam purchased an existing Ford agency and started the family in the automobile business. In 1923, Sam and his brother Louis acquired a Hudson Essex business. Then in 1930, a third brother, Henry, joined, and the 3 brothers became Chevrolet dealers in Denver. Later, Sam sold his interest in the business to Louis and Henry and moved to Florida, where he bought a Miami Beach dealership. Eventually, Sam and his children opened dealerships in several prominent sites on the East Coast, including New York, Baltimore, and Boston. The one Luby daughter, Sadie, became the first female car dealer in Baltimore. Joe Luby, who started out his career in the military, had worked at Luby Chevrolet as a boy and gradually worked his way up until he bought out his brothers in 1956. Papa Joe, as he was nicknamed, transformed the dealership into a state outlet.
So many years ago, long before I was involved in the automobile business with my father-in-law, he always had a unique concept of advertising, and at one point they hired a lady, Judy Garden-Schwartz, who later became Judy Gay, who was a local Denver girl, who would sing a commercial for him. And it was about I love Luby, or why do I love Luby? I love Luby because the prices there are always low and always fair, something like that. And so that's why I love Luby. And they really took that from I Love Lucy, which was new on TV and which was so popular. So it became I Love Luby. So my father-in-law, Joe Luby, always had this enormous respect for Jewish institutions, and particularly for the leadership. Rabbi Lederman was at the top of his list, always. And Rabbi Goldberger, who succeeded Rabbi Lederman, was right at the very, very top too. And then anecdotally, Rabbi Wagner became the rabbi at the BMH. And so he started buying cars from Luby Chevrolet.
Later, his son-in-law Richard Fleischman, married to Joe's daughter Joanne, joined as the general managing partner and vice president. Richard graduated from the University of Denver College of Law in 1967, and he practiced law for a decade until he became vice president of Luby Chevrolet.
At that time, General Motors sold 1 out of every 2 cars in the United States, and Chevrolet sold 1 out of every 2 General Motors cars. So Chevrolet had 25% of the entire sales in the United States of automobiles. There were no imports to speak of in 1978. When I went to work for my father-in-law, I was a lawyer. I had a law degree. I didn't realize it until later, but he loved that because it scared the people at General Motors and Chevrolet like crazy. So when I got involved in the car business, my law background was excellent because there were contracts we had to execute all the time with oil companies and with Chevrolet Motor Division and with finance companies and so forth. And so not having to hire an outside attorney most of the time, I had the knowledge and the ability from my years in law school to understand the contracts, to be able to negotiate the contracts, and hopefully to come out with a good result for the business.
When Joe retired, Joanne and Richard bought Luby Chevrolet in 1992. The Fleischman sold the business in 1998 to a national chain, Houston-based Group 1 Automotive. But Richard remained as president of the enterprise until 2004, when he started SCORE Denver, a nonprofit mentoring small businesses. Over the years, Joanne and Richard have supported numerous philanthropic causes in the general and Jewish community, including many Jewish education causes. Richard has served as past president of the Denver B'nai B'rith and BMH BJ, and was a past chairman of the Colorado Automobile Dealers Association. Another of the early prominent Colorado auto dealerships was Denver Buick, operated by Lou and Harold Cohen. Isaac Cohen arrived in the United States in 1887 and began working in Colorado laying track for the railroad in Cotopaxi. He and his wife, Rebecca Kaufman, became the parents of 8 children, including Lou, their eldest, who was born in 1895, and later married Molly Goldman. Lou Cohen was attracted to the burgeoning auto business. Between 1917 and 1923, he sold so many cars that General Motors came calling, and in 1924, Denver Buick was born. In 1928, Denver Buick moved to the Heiser Building at 700 Broadway. Lou and his son Harold became partners in the dealership. Then in 1975, after 47 years as the leading Buick dealer in Denver, the Cohens sold their land to Blue Cross Blue Shield of Colorado. Seymour Rubenstein spent many decades in the auto business. His father, Ruby, was sent to Denver in 1908 as a young man because it was thought he had tuberculosis. But when he was examined at the Jewish Consumptives Relief Society sanatorium, it was determined that he had pneumonia instead. After he recovered, he was offered a job at the JCRS. Ruby married, raised his family on the West Side, and headed the maintenance operations at JCRS for over a half a century. Ruby's son, Seymour, began in the car business with his father-in-law, Maurice Cohen, and for a number of years they ran a used car lot on West Colfax Avenue. Seymour then went on to become a sales manager at Roger Moore Plymouth, and then general manager at Luby Chevrolet, before venturing out on his own in 1974 with partner Chuck Ruart. Later they constructed a new building for their dealership on Havana, which became Ruart Rubenstein Chevrolet. Seymour sold the company in 1982, but remained in the wholesale car business. Bud Karsh grew up on Denver's west side, the son of Eastern European immigrants Jake and Sarah Karsh. He served in World War II at Okinawa. After he returned to Colorado, he married Jeanne Carson and went into business with his father-in-law, who operated Denver's Carson Auto Sales. In the early 1960s, Bud opened his own dealership, which was called Crest Motors, which sold newly popular foreign imports, such as Toyotas and Volvos. It became a family enterprise, with his wife and children also becoming involved in the business. His daughter Karen, a well-known local vocalist and songwriter, even appeared singing jingles for Crest Motors.
We did this little goofy jingle for him. A supermarket of wheels, famous for super deals. Volume importers, that's Crest Motors with exciting automobiles. It went on from there.
In the 1970s, Bud also partnered with Chuck Stevens in his Ford dealership. Bud Karsh always loved working with people, and he was known to have interacted with his customers with honesty, integrity, and respect.
My dad, Bud Karsh, was so successful, I think, because when I listened to him sell a car to a professor of mine, he was very soft-spoken. He was very concerned about getting the right car for the person who wanted the car. It wasn't just an approach, it was just the way he was.
Bud Rosen's family also had deep ties in the auto business. His father operated an auto parts shop in Denver, and Bud married a young woman whose father owned several car dealerships in Nebraska and Iowa. Bud partnered with his father-in-law to open the Rosen-Novak dealership in Denver. German-Jewish immigrant Wolf Tudia arrived in Denver in 1936. He began his auto career as fleet and truck manager at Rosen-Novak, and later became a general manager of Ruart Rubenstein Chevrolet. Then worked for Rickenbach Cadillac until his retirement in 2004. As a child, Max Moscow emigrated with his parents and siblings from Russia to Denver in the first decade of the 20th century. In the 1950s and 60s, Max operated Max Moscow Auto Wholesale on West Colfax Avenue, but is perhaps even better known for his several motels he owned on Colfax. As America's highway system grew more robust after World War II, long-distance automobile trips became more common, and it led to the need for inexpensive, easily accessible overnight accommodations close to the main routes. Motels peaked in popularity in the 1960s before the rise of major chain hotels. The Moscows were an entrepreneurial family. Max's brothers, Louis, Aaron, and Ruben, owned used car lots on Broadway. And his youngest sister, Ruth Moscow Handler, co-founded the Mattel Toy Company, and it was Ruth who invented the Barbie doll. Others who operated car dealerships over the years included Nathan and Harry Grousman, who owned the Grousman Ford dealership, Murray Pappy Fry, who ran a Plymouth dealership, Harry Cohen and Lester Gold, who operated Ford dealerships in Greeley, Curlin Motor, which sold Studebakers, and Nate Burt, who started Burt's Chevrolet. For over a century, Colorado Jews have played a pivotal role in the auto business. As the industry continues to evolve to meet the new challenges of the 21st century, they will undoubtedly continue to be forward-thinking leaders.
See the USA in your Chevrolet. America is asking you to call. Drive your Chevrolet through the USA. America's the greatest land of all. On a highway or a road along a levee, performance is sweeter, nothing can beat her. Life is completer in a Chevy. So make a date today to see the USA and see it in your Chevrolet.
Traveling east, traveling west, wherever you go, Chevy service is best. Southward or north, near place or far, there's a Chevrolet dealer for your Chevrolet car.
So make a date today to see the USA and see it in your Chevrolet.